What is going on, everybody? How are you all doing on this swelteringly hot day? I feel like I'm back in Atlanta, Georgia again. I am hating the heat. Hey Z, hey Snuppy, how you guys doing? Ugh. God, it's hot in here. Okay, so welcome everybody to the first episode of Critical Inking. My name is Hammy, and I am going to be yapping for the next while about Splatoon tournaments, essentially. The topic of the day is: are there truly too many Splatoon tournaments? It's something that has been talked about a lot in the scene, especially recently. Cactus kind of brought it up again about a month or so ago, and a lot of people started talking about it again. And I have a lot of opinions. So before we get into all of that, just a couple of housekeeping rules and things to go over. This is entirely unscripted. I have a couple of little talking points, but this is going to be me yapping. So feel free in the chat to ask questions, to bring up stuff, to, interact and, kind of make this a little bit more collaborative if you please. If not, I can go on forever. And even if I miss some of your chat messages, it's the point of this is to spark discussion. So even if you guys are having a separate conversation in the chat about tournaments and about your opinions and, your perspective on it, that's great. Anyone watching back the VOD can see the chat messages. Even people who are watching live, can kind of banter with them. And of course, if you do have any other discussion you want to bring up on the topic, go on social media. I know Blue Sky has the competitive Splatoon feed. And also, if you use hashtag critical inking, that's something that I'll probably be keeping an eye on and trying to use that whenever I'm talking about topics that I'm going to bring up on the actual show itself. Any other housekeeping rules? I'm trying to think. I didn't actually make up a list, a preamble of what I was going to talk about beforehand. So yeah, feel free to interact in the chat. I'm going to be yapping. This is fully unscripted. I say as I just closed my list of topics. I have to open that back up. There we go. Whoopsies. Also, yeah, I feel free to check out my Blue Sky and YouTube. It's going to upload all the VODs for the future. I also have a Discord, which I don't use, but you can join it if you want, I guess. And yeah, I guess the last thing is the point of this is to just, again, build some discussion and try to have a more constructive tackle and approach to the topic of the quantity of tournaments in the scene, because I think a lot of people are approaching it with the wrong mindset, which I'll kind of talk about a little bit later. So I think before we really get into the meat of it, because there's a lot to talk about, I need you guys to bear with me here. Let's do a little bit of a thought experiment. Let's kind of ease ourselves into it. As the kids nowadays would say, POV. Imagine you work a 9 to 5, and more specifically, you kind of make just enough money that you got to eat out every 1 or 2 times a week. A lot of your coworkers go. It's kind of the culture at your workplace. Everybody kind of goes out. When you first got the job, you're a little bit hesitant. Like, no, I'm gonna do meal prep every day. I'm gonna be really proactive, be an adult. Make my own lunches. And eventually, no, you gave up. You do exactly what the rest of your coworkers do. You're gonna start going to these restaurants. Now, down the road from your workplace, there is a restaurant that everyone likes to go to. It's the staple in the local area. It's been there forever. The menu, there's a good variety there. The price isn't too bad. The wait isn't terrible. You kind of recognize a lot of the staff there. You recognize a lot of the regulars at the restaurant. Now, time goes on. You work this job for a few years, and another restaurant opens up. Similar menu. It's not outrageous pricing. It's just another restaurant somebody wanted to open up. And you say, hey, you know what? Let's try it out. Let's go look at this restaurant, see what's there. And maybe it's not for you. Maybe you go, you know what? They make the food better, the old place. But now other people are going to this restaurant. Some of your coworkers start going there because they kind of prefer it there. Maybe they want the variety. Maybe they go back and forth between these other restaurants. Maybe this new restaurant, they have a little toy chest. That so when families go there with their kids, the kids can take one of those little gel horseshoes games, or a little sliding puzzle, maybe a little army man with a parachute. So maybe it caters, towards some of those families, and they like to go, and then that kind of ups the numbers there, and it has a nice vibe. Eventually, you get to a point where the work culture is a bit different because people aren't just going to that same old restaurant anymore. There are other restaurants opening up, maybe some cafes, maybe like a Thai place, a Korean place, a different variety of types of restaurants. And you know, eventually too, there's fast food places. It's just slop. It's unhealthy, but sometimes it's not a long wait. It's cheaper. There's once in a while you're kind of craving it. It's not good for you, but you're like, you know what? Like, it's a cheat day. And it comes to a point where, you like to go to this one old restaurant you've been going to for so long. It's been the culture at your job. It's your routine, and other people aren't adhering to it. And there are different reasons for this. Like, you have to think, what do you enjoy at this restaurant? Are you there because of the quality of the food, the speed at which the food arrives, the price, the atmosphere, the aesthetics of the restaurant? Maybe you know the wait staff, and maybe you enjoy the people who are there. Like, you enjoy talking to the waitress. You enjoy hashing it out with the chefs if they ever come out. But other people have different things they value in a restaurant. Maybe they want quick and easy food. They don't care that it's unhealthy. They don't care that it's slop. They're not thinking that deep about it. They want something to fill them up. Maybe they like the aesthetic of another restaurant. They're just going there for the vibes. They like to go to a little cafe. Sure, it's a little pricey, but it's a nice place to relax and kind of, it's meditative. There's so much there's no perfect restaurant for anybody. Everybody is going to have their own opinions. And while sure, some restaurants may add more value to your community, a fast food place isn't going to add a lot of value to the area around it other than its own commercial success. It's still there. It's still an option, and people are going to take advantage of it if it's there. And realistically, there's not much you can do to just get rid of it unless your city says we are banning fast food, which isn't something that they can really fully do. And if they did, it would be kind of weird and seem very... It would seem like you're giving too much power to the people above you to dictate what can and can't be functionable as a business. Now, I'm sure you can all kind of tell what I'm doing here. Splatoon tournaments are like restaurants. There is a lot of Splatoon tournaments right now, but I wouldn't argue that the quantity of Splatoon tournaments is the actual issue here. A lot of these tournaments can serve a purpose. Like restaurants, there are reasons that people will play all these other tournaments. If there was no reason to play XYZ tournament, then why is there a single person signing up? Even if they don't add as much value, there's still value to somebody. Now, I'm going to keep probably going back to this restaurant analogy a lot throughout, just because as I thought of this analogy, I kept coming up with reasons why it kind of fit. So I'm like, it'll work because it's something that's relatable. Something it's easy to understand. Something like a esport tournament isn't like an everyday life thing, but going out to eat at a restaurant is. Everyone's done it. People know kind of what to expect. It's easier to understand those concepts. Now, the only thing with the restaurant analogy that I feel like people are going to come at me for is that people are saying that because there are too many tournaments, the quantity of players playing in the actual, like, the good events is diminishing. Like, there's less people signing up for these big tournaments that have existed for a long time. And I would like to argue that the number of people signing up for a Splatoon tournament is not everything. What I would like to ask you is, what is a successful tournament? What makes a tournament successful? That answer depends on the tournament. There are tournaments that their goal is to have the highest number of signups, a quantity. They want big numbers every time they run. There are going to be tournaments that want quality. They don't care if only 8 teams play in their tournament, but if that 8 teams is 8 times 4, 32 of the best players in the scene, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for top level players. Maybe your tournament is all about the stream. You want the highest number of people watching. You don't care who's playing in it, how many people, what the format is, what the modes or maps are. It doesn't matter. What you care about is how many people are watching this tournament and are people enjoying the experience of watching it. Maybe you want a tournament that the entire goal is just enjoyment. You are trying to make a fun experience so that people can enjoy their Saturday night. That's a lot of gimmick tournaments are. The goal there isn't to, elevate the level of competitive Splatoon. It's so that people can do something different, something unique, something fresh. So every tournament is going to value something differently. And I think the discussion about the tournament problem is people are like, signups are low, not enough people are playing. That's not the only metric for success. And sure, having more players in tournaments is a good thing. It's going to increase the likelihood of good matches. It adds variety. It's nice to see things flourish, but it's not the only metric. And obviously, I think we need more people playing competitive Splatoon anyway. Like, we need to increase those numbers, but that's a whole other topic. I'm saying in the limited pool of people we have currently playing, them being divided is less of an issue people make it out to be, but it is still an issue because of low amounts of people. Now, the other issue with the players being split up, or that people would come at me and say, like, people aren't playing SOS anymore because there's too many other competitors, or people aren't playing Squid Junction. People aren't playing these big, long-running tournaments that are weekly or bi-weekly, even monthly. And here's my take. People are saying that other tournaments are stealing players. If you are losing signups, your tournament sucks. If you have a long-running tournament and people are not signing up for your tournament because they would rather play a new random tournament they've never heard of with a Sendo badge somebody paid $10 to get made, and they're just running it bracket and badge style, it means that your tournament is not good enough. Your tournament is not adding enough value. It is not exciting enough. It is not enticing to players. End of story. That's it. If it's a video game, it's for fun. If people are having more fun somewhere else, then why should they play yours? We can't force them to. It goes back to the restaurant thing. If somebody likes the new restaurant that just opened up, they think that, the menu is better, or maybe they're a picky eater and they decided, hey, I have more options here. You can't go to that restaurant and be like, hey, you need to shut this place down now. Like, you cannot be here. You are not allowed in our community. You're just gatekeeping at that point. You are telling people that they cannot do what they want to do. And ultimately, too, with that topic, it's creating a tournament is, it's an art. It's a hobby. It's something fun to do. Not every tournament has to be made to be big. I'm going to bring up the other topic because I'm kind of going back to what a successful tournament is and what the values are. You need to understand that, like, every tournament, has different metrics. And a lot of these tournaments, you're going to have people who just want to improve a skill. They want to learn organizational skills. They want to, learn how to be a leader. They want to even have the ego of, running their own tournament, having their own thing. And that's fine. People should be allowed to do that. We're allowed to make Splatoon teams. We're allowed to make Splatoon videos. People can make art. People can do whatever they want. You just don't have to interact with it if you don't like it. If you don't like a new tournament somebody's made, don't play it. If other people like it, they're going to play it. You can't dictate if somebody should have fun the way that you want to have fun just because you want more people in your tournament. which again goes back to the other point of we need to make the big tournaments that people want to play in better so that people actually want to play. That is, that's what that comes down to, essentially. Now, I'm trying to think if there's more. The fun part about being unscripted is that I'm going to forget like a million things I want to bring up, so I'm going to keep kind of darting back and forth. But yeah, we need to understand that we shouldn't attack new tournaments. We should not be thinking, how do we remove these tournaments? How do we get rid of these new TOs? How do we decrease the number of tournaments so that people have less options? That's not constructive. That's not healthy. We need to look at this in a constructive way. Rather than focusing on the negative, we focus on the positive. How do we get people to want to play in a specific tournament? It's not a simple question, because it's a question people have been asking a lot, and everyone has different opinions, and that's the main thing. You can't, even if you add a prize pool, not everyone's going to play for a prize pool. If you say, you know what, from now on, every single SOS, every week, has a prize pool, that's not going to encourage lower level players, because they're not going to win. They know they're not going to win. Most of these teams can't even make it out of Mako bracket. So everyone has a different reason to play a tournament, and that's where the metric of success comes in. What does the tournament want to do? Do you want more top-level players? Do you want more players in general? You need to understand what your end goal is, and then market and find strategies to push that agenda to end up getting to that end goal. And overall, again, people keep talking about we need more people playing tournaments, but it doesn't seem like anyone cares about the quality of the opponent. Because even, if we, like, again, I keep harping in, like, SOS, for example, because it's an easy one. Everyone's played SOS. It's, it's a common weekly. At least it's a tournament that I've played, like, every week for the last, like, 2 years. But if you increase the number of people in SOS, the format is still the same. You still play a 4-person group into a bracket. You still play it. You still have 4 teams that are seeded for each bracket, and then you run it. Sure, and I guess there are other tournaments with different formats that would benefit from larger numbers, but a lot of these TOs do alter the bracket and alter the format dependent on signups. Look at Low Ink. They have a different structure for different amounts of people. We've seen many different formats for Low Ink depending on the amount of people playing in the tournament. Now, I will also, in chat, Westy said new TOs should be held to a higher standard to create higher quality tournaments. That, I agree if their goal is to make a higher quality tournament. But as I talked about earlier, not everyone is here to make a higher quality tournament. Some of these tournaments are fast food restaurants. Some of them are just slop for the goal of being slop. They wanted to make a tournament. They wanted a couple of people to have fun. They want, maybe they just want the ego of running their own thing. Some people are selfish. Some people, like to work on something on their own. And some people like to start something new. That's fine. I don't think we should kick them down and say you can't do that. We just don't have to pay attention to them. If you don't want to play in a new tournament because you don't think it adds any quality to the scene, then don't play in it. If nobody plays in new tournaments, then new tournaments will stop springing up because they'll get 0 signups. But people are playing in them. And that means that people enjoy these events. So we need to focus on making the existing tournaments better if we want to avoid that. Or, of course, giving resources to newer TOs to make better tournaments is something that could definitely help with that if people want to make new quality events. Because the only option for making more quality events is to have resources for new TOs or to convince new TOs to join existing orgs. But we're on the internet. There's a lot of people who are shy, who aren't, they might be scared of reaching out in fear of being shut down or in fear of being like mocked or like judged, especially for being new. So it can be tough, especially when orgs like IPL and like Dapple, kind of have their cliques, have their circles. And I remember me personally, I applied to IPL, like on their website, went to, the part where it's like apply to join IPL, you fill out the Google form, and then nobody checks it. I waited months and months and months and months, never heard back, and then I just DM'd Popgun and said like, "Yo, can you get me in here?" And he just sent me an invite link, like to their thing. And that's I have other friends who have gotten into IPL that way. They just ask somebody or have been asked by staff members if they wanted to help out, and they say yes. So it's very fluid, it's very easy, but it's still daunting. Now, so I might as well just move on to the next part, because I thought I have so many other things that have been in my brain, but again, I can't script stuff. I'm not good at organizing my thoughts, basically. So it is a ramble. Yeah, exactly, Tokaba. It says in the form not to DM people. So when I applied to IPL, I knew they didn't check their application forms. I could tell. So what I did was I did it out of spite. I waited months and months and months. I wanted to hold that. So when somebody asked me, "Hey, Hammy, why don't you commentate for IPL yet?" Like, I'm surprised. I would tell them, "Yeah, I applied. They never accepted me." I wanted to do it to be spiteful. But eventually there was an event I really wanted to commentate. So I'm like, okay, I need to drop the act. I'm just going to DM like, whoever and get in. So there's a lot of old outdated systems with some of these bigger orgs. Heck, when I went to IPL's website for the last SAC season, I wanted more because I was playing in last SAC season. This one I'm commentating. And I wanted to figure out like the dates for the qualifiers. I wanted to figure out more information. So I went back to their website in the the actual SAC section, and it hadn't been updated since SAC 7. And I don't know how many years it's been since SAC 7, but the information was not very correct. Obviously, I think now it's updated, actually. I think, like for the new season, they've really been kicking it into high gear, but there's a lot of inconsistencies. Do you think part of the issue is what you said? People are likely to create their own stuff and help existing orgs up their quality. Yes, but that's... people are more likely to create their own stuff because it's easier, especially with tools like Sendo.inc, which we'll get into later. But because I'm the same too. When I have an idea, it is easier for me to sit down and be like, I'm going to make this thing, than I'm going to reach out to somebody and tell them that we should make this thing. It's so much more daunting. Like it's so easy to say, yeah, just go to the existing orgs and help out, but it can be daunting. It can be kind of scary for some people, especially when you're inexperienced and you're young, you don't really know what you're doing. And for some people, it can be an ego thing. And ultimately, like, we can't fix that. We can't tell people to drop their ego and like follow a format. Like, it's, people are free to do whatever they want to do. Yeah, so what I might as well move on to, the elephant in the room. Just because, it's kind of been brought up in chat a couple times already. So Sendo, the man, the myth, the legend, has yesterday morning announced a new change coming to Sendo.inc. Specifically, I'll read this out word for word. Hello, I am planning to change tournament manager rights for Sendo.inc. Starting in July, 2 groups will have access to it. 1, established organizations to host events under that org. I will define the criteria later, but it will be around 100 monthly active players. And 2, supporters. So, this is the reason why I this was yesterday. The reason why I started this podcast, I already had this on my mind for a while, but when I saw this yesterday morning, I was like, I need to make this episode now. I have so many things to talk about. And of course, most of them immediately escape my brain as soon as I go live, but I digress. So, I am going to go through Sendo's whole thread. He has a whole thread talking about the specifics of it. And then after we go through that thread, I'm going to talk about my opinions on it. Because even though it's only been a bit over 24 hours, I've changed my mind like 3 times on the implications of this new change coming in July. And obviously things aren't set in stone. You know, he said himself he's going to define the criteria later for what an established org is. So let's just go through it quickly so we're all on the same page in case you haven't seen it. So the background of this came from an original post by Cactus. Yeah, almost a month ago. I brought it up earlier. This kind of sparked the tournament debate again, where Cactus said, we don't need any more tournaments at this moment. Need to start taking some down, remove any that we can't gain enough entries to be entertaining to watch. Sendo makes it easier than ever with your average player to make a tournament. Well, good at first is to really hurt the tournament market. Which I would also like to mention too, one thing that I haven't heard people talk about, is that not every tournament has to be a spectator thing. Tournaments can just be a thing to participate in. We don't have to make tournaments where the purpose is streaming it. Because I will say, unless any big drama happens, the next episode of Critical Inking is going to be on why Splatoon tournaments have low viewership. I have a lot to say on that topic. A lot of opinions that I think, people aren't talking about. So I'm gonna say that for another day. But not every tournament has to be something to watch. Anyway, Sendo said, the calendar upgrades I did last month were the first part of me trying to solve the problem, and this is the second. My goal was to make it more open tool that anyone can host, but I realized after reading this commentary, it might not be the best way forward. Currently, the criteria is 5 tournaments hosted, but this was always very hard to define, and TBH, most people are trying to claim it with pretty shoddy qualifications, often helping out in some event in ways that are hard to quantify. This, of course, also leads up to more and more people building up perms over time, and also I know the number 2 criteria, which is to be a supporter, which is subscribing to Sendo's Patreon for $5 a month. Is more controversial, but the fact is that there's still a lot of work left to be done with the feature. These are the people who fund the work, so it seems fair to me, which I agree with. I think that if you're willing to put in your own money into your tournament, you care enough about the project to go through with it. It's a small barrier to entry, but it will cut out those people who aren't even interested enough to spend $5. Because sure, not everyone has money, and that's fair. But that's the thing, is what I'll go into later, is there are ways to make a tournament without needing to pay Sendo. I'm not going to get too far into it yet, because I'm going to finish this thread first. I don't want to jump around too much. And of course, it's possible I make exceptions case by case, but I want to stress these will really be the exceptions. Anyway, as always, happy to have a conversation. I'm just getting my current thinking out here. One thing I forgot to mention is that this would also apply to the hosting event in behalf of someone else loophole that was actually never allowed but didn't get enforced till now. And I take the established org criteria too literally for now. An example, these orgs. Yeah, so just covering some more baseline of what he meant. So, lot to unpack here. Yeah, sorry, took up a $5 a month. It's a subscription, so it would be $5 monthly, so, $60 a year, that kind of thing, which, I mean, is, I guess it's 3 times as much as our Splatoon online service, but the Splatoon online service sucks. Nobody thinks that's good. And Sendo's good. Now, lot of things to cover with that. Obviously, so my initial reaction was negative. When Sendo dropped that, I was like, this kind of sucks. Because of the reasons I talked about earlier. The idea that anyone should be allowed to make a tournament because it's unfair to gatekeep. And on top of that, too, if we do gatekeep tournaments, if we say you can't make a tournament here, who is to judge? Who is to say This tournament adds value, this one doesn't. Who is that jury? Who is the judge? Obviously, in this case, it's basically Sendo and anyone that Sendo trusts because he hosts the most successful Splatoon tournament service. But a lot of people act like we need to remove tournaments, but it's unfair to say that, oh, I get to be the one who says that your tournament sucks and that you have to remove it and that no one's allowed to play in it because my tournament deserves more players. It's unfair because just because you were here first doesn't mean you get to make all the rules. Ultimately, it is a grassroots scene. Everyone should have a say. Everyone should be able to play what they want to play in and do what they want to do. But I thought about it more. And I, kind of realized the obvious thing that I feel like nobody's really talking about. Sendo.inc isn't the only way to run tournaments. There are so many other ways to run a tournament. What did we do before Sendo made the site or had tournaments running on the site? We had Battlefy. We had Challenge. Start.gg is still used for LANs. Heck, if you open up your phone right now and go on the Nintendo Switch app, you will see a funny little yellow button that says Tournaments. You can run a tournament there. Heck, Area Cup, one of the biggest Japanese Splatoon tournaments that exists currently, just ran its 35th edition last week. And they ran the entire thing, I kid you not, in Google Sheets. They run their tournament in Google Sheets. This is like the group. This is one of the group stages. They have all of the groups as different sheets. And then, here's the bracket. It's just done in a Google Sheet. You can, I can't scroll down because I zoomed out too far, but here's the winner of the bracket. You can just do that. You don't need Sendo. There are so many other places to run a tournament. You can just do it out of Google Sheets. You can do it on your own. You can do it exclusively in Discord. I used to TO in another game before Splatoon, and I ran the tournaments exclusively out of Discord. The bracket was a JPEG that I kept updating and then would go in the bracket channel and remove the old image and then upload the new image after every round. You don't need anything fancy. Now, obviously, infrastructure is important. Sendo.inc gives us a lot of tools that are specific to Splatoon that's going to be very helpful and make the process run easier. But the issue with new TOs running tournaments is that they don't learn a lot of new skills. Running a new tournament is going to be difficult without using Sendo.inc, but it's possible. And I think that the challenge presented by not using Sendo.inc is valuable. The way that I see it, going back to the original analogy I was making, Sendo is trying to make a fast food free world. The goal is to make it so that TOs have to grind their way through it. They can't just open up a fast food franchise and like a chain and then call it quits. Just have it kind of passively there. They're kind of working on it haphazardly. They don't understand how a lot of the systems are working. They just open it up. This way, you have to get down and dirty. You have to figure out, how do I seed? How do I make a bracket? What kind of bracket should I use? I have to make a map list. I have to figure out a rule set. And so many TOs just copy and paste their rules from other tournaments to the point where they have the tournament name in the rules. Like, the new TOs will have to figure it out. And that's good. You can't just use shortcuts. Look at the whole global debate on generative AI and how, we don't consider people who use AI to make images artists because they're not. Or people using, like Chat GPT and stuff to write school assignments. They're not learning anything. That is kind of the same thing going on here. We have people who aren't learning anything because Sendo gives them too many useful resources. And this way we can start encouraging new TOs to learn about all these different aspects. And if anything, they can think more critically about what the end goal is, because the tournament isn't going to run itself. So now you have to decide what you want. This goes back to what I talked about earlier. Do you want the tournament to have maximum number of signups? Do you want quality of opponents? Do you want to make a kick-ass stream that everyone gets to watch? It's you have to put your focus somewhere, and you have to assemble a team of people, which at that point does encourage people to probably go to existing orgs, because if you are a one-trick pony, if you're like, I'm really into like running the tournament, like I'm really into like the help desk stuff and like making the bracket, but I don't want to do the production, I don't want to seed stuff, I don't want to figure out map lists, like I want to like do the actual day of running the tournament, then if you can't assemble your own team, then it might be good to join an org who's looking for more people. And to that point, existing orgs need to do a better job at advertising when they need help, because the only way that existing orgs seem to look for help is to ask people they know specifically, or just sit there and complain that they don't have enough help, because I genuinely do not see any orgs advertising at all. Like, completely. The only time I ever see somebody asking for help for their org is when somebody has made a new tournament and they're like, hey, I can't run this by myself, somebody should help me. And even then, that's rare. Most people just ask their friends, or just don't, and they just run a tournament by themselves and pray that it works because they don't understand the work that goes into it. Orgs need to do a better job at advertising that they need new people, and they need to start catering to these new people. Be like, hey, come join us. Here are reasons to join us to grow. A lot of people are putting the onus on the new TOs to join these orgs. The onus should be on the orgs to bring in the new people, to market, to advertise, to say, hey, we want you. We want the new generation to join us. Yes, and Milo, I was going to go into that. It's a perfect timing of the question. How does one advertise effectively? There are so many ways. And now I'm not a marketing person. I'm not a great advertiser. But they're not doing anything. Their website's not even updated. There are so many times where I will go to like an org's like FAQs channel, or like their like useful links, and it's like they have a Google form for like joining their team, and the Google form is it's outdated. Like it physically, like the link doesn't bring you to the form anymore. Or you go to their website and like it's, like if you go on like a lot of orgs' websites, you look at like their staff list and it says how they're talking about Splatoon 2 still, because they haven't updated it since Splatoon 2. It's been years. So it's not even hard to market. You just need to start posting about it. Post on Blue Sky, post on Twitter if people still use that site. Go to, in your Discord and like post about it. Have like a channel that says, here's how you join, find people who are talking about it online. Like look for people who are talking about like they have cool ideas for tournaments and interact with them. It's just an interaction game. It's, it's one of those things where you just have to put yourself out there and start doing stuff. It's like, it's just recognizability and just talking about it. Like this podcast, I literally announced it 24 hours before the first episode went live, and it got decent reception because I just posted about it like 3 times and then shared it with all my friends and then told people to gas it up. And on top of that, too, it's because a lot of people know who I am. But people knowing who I am is just because I talk a lot. I don't do anything. I'm not good at the game. I'm a hard-stuck Div 5 Reflux one-trick. But I talk a lot, so people listen, eventually, after a while. And it becomes one of those things where you just have to put yourself out there and just start doing it. So I can't really answer how to advertise effectively. We're going to need actual people who are into social media and marketing to answer that question. But they have to actually market at all. That is the baseline right now. I want to see orgs start marketing, period. It doesn't matter how, but it needs to be recent information. orgs need to update like their Google Forms. They need to update, you know, their websites. They need to update their Discord servers. They need to update their social medias. Make it recent and make it understandable that you actually want people to join your org. If I go to a thing and I see that this Google form has been touched in 4 years, I know that no one's going to read it. So yeah, anyway, that is the general statement on that is that the onus is on big orgs to bring in new TOs. It is not up to new TOs to join these orgs. At least that's my opinion. That is how I feel. Obviously, we need those go-getters who are willing to DM head TOs of orgs, like, hey, I have a great idea. We should do something. But it's unfair for the TOs, the current TOs, to complain about this problem, but then also not enact that change. You are the big kids on the block. You've been here for a while. You should know how this works. So why are you sitting on your ass? So yeah, that's kind of that. God, there's so many. There's so much about the topic of a lot of tournaments. A lot of us, UP included, only advertise things through a Discord server. You need way more avenues of communication like Blue Sky. Yes. So here is my general thing with Splatoon as a scene. Not this is about, you know, TOing stuff, but even about events like tournaments themselves and about like viewing streams, about everything. Splatoon as a comp scene, you can only find things if you seek them out. If you say, I want to play Squid Junction, you can look up Squid Junction, you can find their Discord server, and you will find it. Never in my life have I ever seen an announcement for when Squid Junction is happening. I have never sought out to play Squid Junction before because I don't even know what it really is. I just know it's a tournament that runs weekly. I don't know like what time zone it is or whatever. But I don't know when it runs or what it is because they have never advertised the tournament, just broadcasted it to the Splatoon scene. They probably post announcements in their Discord server whenever they run. They probably have a calendar, you know, they do whatever, but they do not post publicly about it. At least if they used to do it like 200 Squid Junctions ago, they don't do it anymore. So now new players don't know it exists, so they're going to go play this random bracketed badge tournament they never heard of. Because if they go look at the Sendo calendar and see 2 tournaments, they've probably never heard of the old ones because they aren't being advertised and they aren't being marketed as what they are. For what it's worth, since my rant in the podcast, seen more TO applications forms of Blue Sky. Yes, and that's the answer to all of this. That's the answer to 99% of the issues with a lot of the Splatoon scene is just talking about it more. We have these like things where social media blows up for 2 days because somebody brings something up, then everyone argues about it and then walks away. And all we've done is argue about it. We haven't talked about it constructively. We haven't brought up ideas. We aren't going to the people who currently manage these things, such as in this case, you know, we aren't going directly to the TOs and saying to their face, do this. You know, if you can go into your personal Discord servers and rant all you want about all of these different things that are happening. I've seen it a lot in researching topics for this podcast, not only this episode, but every episode that I've had planned for the future, because I have a couple different ideas. It's people talking in like group chats and in private servers, like their team servers and stuff. And it's like, this is great, but tell other people. No one's going to know what your opinion is if you don't tell people your opinion. And when we have TOs who are the ones who basically like organize the competitive scene because they're the ones who run the events that competitive players play in, and they don't know how we feel or what we want or what we need from them, then they aren't going to do what we need or want from them. It's that simple. We tell them, hey, this would be cool. And then they go, you know what? That would be cool. And if they're proactive enough and if they're reasonable enough, then they'll just do it. Or at least put that seed in their mind, and then they will get around to it eventually. So yeah, that's a perfect example, Tokapa. Just, yeah, you went to the podcast and said, hey, We need more TO application forms, and lo and behold, people started doing it. It's literally, that's kind of the point of this podcast. I'm just gonna spend an hour or two. I mean, that's kind of stretching it. I could have gone for like 3 hours today if I ended up remembering half the topics I want to talk about. But that's just how the cookie crumbles. The cookie crumbles. A crumbling cookie. But I'm just gonna rant about these things to make people more aware of different perspectives. And that's why I kind of went with the tournament thing, because that's the whole thing. People... Here, I'm going to switch the topic over. This probably makes more sense. So, people are being very destructive with the topic at hand. They're again, the focus is on... The entire focus is on the small tournaments. It's, these tournaments need to go away. These smaller TOs need to reach out to the bigger TOs and join these orgs. All of our emphasis is on the wrong thing, and it has been the entire time. Nobody is focusing on the big orgs. We need the bigger orgs to make better tournaments. We need these bigger orgs to figure out from the players what a better tournament looks like. We need these TOs to make a decision on what their tournament should be. Should it be a quantity event, a quality event, a spectator event? Should it be a fun, like something that's like there to just be a really fun thing? Is it going to be something that's supposed to raise awareness for a topic or be a charity event? Like, what is the goal of the event? The bigger TOs, we should expect more from them. I'm going to go back to this, earlier, I think, who was it in chat that said, someone in chat said that we need, the new TO should be held to a higher standard to make higher quality tournaments. And that's backwards thinking. The existing TO should be held to a higher standard. You've had years of experience. You've had years of making tournaments. And people are still playing random bracket and badge tournaments that pop up every week over theirs. They're not putting in the value that they should be. We need to see these tournaments and I'm not saying that like you're not putting any effort. I know a lot of TOs. I work with a lot of TOs. I've TO'd before. I hate TOing. It's so much effort. It takes a lot. I have so much respect for people who TO. To any level, brand new TO, a long time running TO. But we also need to kind of, up the ante a little bit. There's so much more value that we could have. A lot of my knowledge from everything about Splatoon comp, or at least my ideas about Splatoon comp, about tournament, about, the whole TO debate, about the next episode coming out eventually soon, TM, that will be about viewership and about all these other things is from other esports. I am an esports fan. And so I look at Splatoon, my favorite game, the one that I play, and I just get kind of sad because we don't do a lot. There's a lot of things that we could be doing that we could. There are things that the Japanese Splatoon scene does that we don't do. The blueprint's right there. They play the same game. We have the technology. We just don't do it for God knows why. And this is in all aspects. This is in how the tournaments are organized, how the streams go, how we kind of like determine skill in the scene. There's so many aspects of competitive Splatoon that I think could be improved upon. And at the end of the day, the onus is on everybody, honestly. The existing TOs need to up their game because they aren't doing... according to signups and like people and like people leaving for their tournaments, they aren't doing enough that's really bringing more value to the scene than a random bracket and badge tournament. They need to have more incentive for people to play. But it's also up to these new bloods in the scene to come with fresh ideas and perspectives to blow everything out of the water. We need these people who are new to Splatoon and they look at it and go, hey, this is cool, but what if we also had this? And then everyone else is like, oh, why didn't we think of that? We could have just done that years ago. And then we do it, and then everyone gets happy, and everything's awesome. I just want the Splatoon scene to be cool. I ended up liking this game too much to not care about the scene. I want bigger, cooler, more fun events all around. So I guess, and again, taking it back to, the quantity of tournaments and, kind of bringing back like my poker tables tournament, we did a good job. Yeah, poker table did great. Poker table's a gimmick tournament and it popped off. They made a couple of cool graphics. They got some TOs together and they just like rolled with it. And like the goal of poker table is to be fun. And it is fun. They didn't worry about the other shit. I feel like if poker table dropped in player count, they wouldn't care. Probably. I don't know the TOs. But it's because like the goal is to make a fun event. And because they're making a fun event, people want to play in it. And then it builds up hype. And the marketing is good because they have trailers that they post. And then people talk about it on social media and it gets more hype. I haven't played in one because I've been busy every time they run it and I'm sad about it. The poker table makes me care enough about the tournament that I'm sad that I can't play it. We need more orgs that do that. If I miss a lot of other tournaments, I go, that kind of sucks. They should set the precedent because they have a clear... Exactly. I made a video. This kind of comes back to it. I'm also plugging myself now. So a while back, I made a video that it kind of is what sparked this. I literally made a video called "Why Are You Still Playing Competitive Splatoon?" And in that video, I just asked that simple question: why are you playing competitive Splatoon? Because a lot of competitive Splatoon players do not have a reason that they're playing. They just do it. It's just something that they just have been doing for a while. They don't have like set goals. They don't have ambitions or desires. They aren't doing things to actually improve themselves in their journey. They're not contributing to other people's journey. They're just kind of here. And I feel like we're at a point where a lot of tournaments exist just because. Like, a lot of people have heard Little Squid League, LSL, after their 50th edition, went on hiatus for potentially forever. Maybe it'll come back someday. And I respect the hell out of that decision. They looked at their tournament. They looked at the value they're providing to the community. They looked at what their goal was. They looked at how they've done in the past. They looked at how they're doing currently. And they determined that it was not worth the investment to continue going on, and it would be a better use of their time and energy to pursue other things. Because LSL served its purpose. LSL has been around for a long time. It was made to be like a low level monthly event, or not monthly. How often does LSL run? I can't remember. It's not monthly, is it? It feels like it's monthly, but I feel like it hasn't gone for 50 months. It feels like it should be longer than that. Is LSL really... Actually, no, never mind. I'm stupid. 50 months is a good couple of years. Huh? Yeah, over 4 years. Okay, yeah, no, I'm just stupid. Right. I don't know why I thought 50 LSLs was like 2 years. Anyway, math aside, LSL did what it needed to do. It was awesome. And now it's at a point where there's so many other low-level tournaments that run more frequently where LSL can't do much to provide more value other than production value. But at that point where they're losing staff, it doesn't make sense to keep running it, ultimately. That it gives some of these TOs and production people more time to focus on other projects that they may be interested in. And then, if the community eventually goes, man, I miss LSL, and they have people come back, if the people in charge of LSL, if the MIT staff actively pursue finding new people, they reach out to the community and say, we are bringing LSL back, we need a new team, and they bring on a lot of like young and hungry TOs, then LSL can come back. It all comes full circle. We need new TOs who are excited to work in projects. We need old TOs to reach out to people and we need everyone to have a collective idea of actually what the hell they're doing. That's kind of what I've been doing too, is like, I've been scaling back from playing as much of the game because my goal isn't to be the number one player in the world. At this point, my goal is to just kind of be a guy who talks about the game. I just like yapping. And I think I have more prospects as a commentator than a player. And I definitely have no prospects as a TO, so I'm not even touching that. I've considered getting into TOing, and every time I've considered it, I slapped myself in the face and said, no, what are you doing? Because that's not me. So more people need to look at what they want to accomplish. Do you want to be a TO? Or do you want the ego of running an event? And if you want to be a TO, what kind of event do you want to make? Who do you want to work with? Who do you want to work for? Who do you want to work for you? And what do you want to make at the end of the day? So ultimately, yes, it comes down to everyone needs to up their game. People need to start thinking more critically about it, and people need to start, kind of just setting goals, setting expectations, being realistic. A tournament success doesn't just mean other tournaments are failing. A tournament success is you don't have to compare yourself to the people. Don't ignore the other tournaments. Who cares? Even I know Popgun's talked on the podcast before where he doesn't even bother rescheduling like a low ink if there's other tournaments running. He's like, if they want to play another tournament, go ahead. They don't have to play low ink. They're not obligated to. And we need people to just focus on their event and making it as cool as possible, advertising it and making it awesome. And then also uplifting other people. There are obviously tournaments that I think don't add value. I'm not going to shit on them. They can exist. They can do whatever they want. But when it comes to like big high production events that I enjoy, because I'm a spectator, I like these, the ones where the production is number one, where the stream and the story is the goal. I love gassing those up. LCS was amazing. Sendoku Finals, I was on the new podcast account that CKK and Vapor and Omazen made, Beep. Like I was on there before for a pre-show, a post-show, and a watch party because I was like, this is going to be a fun event. Like I will put effort into the events that I think are going to be cool and try to help share that. And I don't think enough people do that. Maybe people might retweet or repost something online, but invest in the scene. We all have to do it. If you're just kind of sitting around, nothing else is going to change. That goes for TOs and players and everybody. But yeah, those are kind of my main takeaways. I could talk in circles for hours about this. I'm going to end up touching on the same topics over and over and over again. But that's kind of the rundown of it. I don't think there are too many Splatoon tournaments. That is my opinion. Obviously, you are free to think that there are too many tournaments and there needs to be less. I don't think there's a lot of people like having good ideas. They don't have a platform to get the info out of the community. And building a platform takes time. You just need to start. Just because you don't have followers doesn't mean you can't post on social media. You can just share it with friends, and then friends can share it. Again, when I started this podcast, I just went into some chats with my friends and said, yo, I'm making this podcast. If you think this is sick, gas it up. And then everyone was immediately wanted to gas it up. I was driving when I missed CKK. You missed like the entire thing. You missed like I had a whole there was a whole thing. You just watch the VOD, man. But yeah, Westy, it obviously having a platform is better. If one of like the big names in the community dropped something, if nine whole grains walked in and said, hey guys, check this out, everyone's gonna look, obviously. But if you don't have a platform, you can still make something cool. You just need to make people care. And that's the important part, is that if you want your event to get big, it needs to be valuable. People need to find it interesting. So it kind of goes hand in hand. If you want a big event, you need to make it interesting. If you don't care about making a big event, then just post whatever. Who cares? At the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with just posting about it regardless of your platform. But yeah, so going back to the overall question, again, the original topic of the day is, are there too many Splatoon tournaments? And that's, in my opinion, okay, yes, there are too many Splatoon tournaments. But the follow-up question I ask to you is, the number of Splatoon tournaments the problem? Is the reason why the competitive scene is struggling strictly because there are too many tournaments? If we take the number of tournaments in the Sendo calendar and we slice it, a third off, half of them off, is the competitive scene going to thrive? Do you just will magically everybody decide to start playing the same tournaments, and we'll get more numbers, we'll get more viewers, everyone will be happy? And honestly, CKK, that's a good point too. The more tournaments means that more people are interested. It means that people are here. People want to do something new. They want to bring in fresh things. It means that people are excited. But I think if we reduce the number of tournaments, that not much is going to change. We're going to get more signups for some tournaments. Like maybe SOS will start getting their numbers back up. Maybe Low Ink will hit some of their peaks that they've hit in the past. But it's not going to fix the problem. There are a multitude of other issues in the scene that I've talked about in the last hour. Marketing and advertising. Resources for new TOs. Accessibility of people joining orgs and getting the word out there. Having values and goals for your tournaments, having an idea, a plan, and communication, talking with people, discussing, debating, doing things like this where we are talking about a problem and we're actively looking for a solution. All of these things are not that difficult. And they are the thing that is going to solve the problems we have, such as the tournament issue. And the only way to do it is to start doing it. There's no, I'm an overthinker. I will overthink something to the point where I never do it because it becomes too grand of a scheme. We just have to start. We don't have to, make any grand plans. Obviously, we should make grand plans, but just start. If you want to make a tournament, just make it, but figure out plan. Why do you want to make a tournament? Figure it out. If you are an existing TO, if you are with an org, if you are listening to this and you're with IPL, DAPL, Under Pressure, the Shoal, MIT, I'm going to start forgetting the names of other orgs, but I already listed off enough of them. Figure your shit out. Start marketing to new TOs to join your org. Start encouraging them to come to you and bring their unique perspectives. Start figuring out what your plan for a tournament is. Do you want it to have more people, have better people? Well, better as in high-level players. Do you want to have better productions? Figure out what your end goal is. Pick specific targets and try to meet them. And update your information, please. I'm tired of going in Discord servers and websites for Splatoon orgs, and all of your shit is outdated as hell. And again, if your Discord server still has information about the game that it says Splatoon 2, what are you doing? Reread your shit. Anyway, CKK said, I think we got to start inviting, went away. I think we got to start inviting individual teams and players as a selling point. If the goal is to make a large competitive tournament with prizing specifically. That's what Smash does. Splatoon 2 is crazy. Yeah. So it's a good if your goal is to make a high level event, you want top teams and you want people to watch a stream because there's good teams. you can just tell people to play your tournament. Let me introduce you to the Jauntlet. JJ said, I want to run a tournament. And then asked a bunch of top level players and teams that they were friends with. And they're all like, hell yeah. If JJ's running a tournament, I'll be there. And then it popped off. Immediately, the Jauntlet was really good on its first rendition. Every other tournament struggles with its first one. The Jauntlet popped off. Good production. They had Jorian on there. Good commentators. I can't even remember all the commentators, but they were all like seasoned commentators. You know, it was high level teams, high level play. And sure, a part of that is connections. But you build those connections over time. You have to start somewhere. You're not going to meet high-level players. You're not going to interact with them. You're not going to interact with existing TOs if you don't post online, if you don't join Discord servers, you don't slide in DMs, you don't ask people questions. You know, I've taken the same route in the last year. I didn't have anything going on for me. I started wanting to get into commentary, get into, you know, like talking about the game, yapping. And, you know, it's at a point where, you know, I have a bit of a platform. Like, if people know who I am, people at LANs recognize me from behind, like, 50 feet away. I mean, mainly because I have my name on my jersey, but, you know, I've built a platform. People recognize me. People now trust me with things. I got invited to a podcast a week ago, specifically because they, like, pointed out, like, we want you there, which was, I then smiled and twirled, because I was excited. But you need to start somewhere. So inviting high level players to events is a good idea. We just need to make those connections. And a lot of existing TOs have those connections. They just don't utilize them. They just make an event and assume and hope that they will show up. And sometimes they do, but sometimes they have better things. And honestly, humans are selfish. But sometimes in a good way. If you DM a top level player and say, you're an awesome player, I want you in my event, they will probably join, because they'll be like, oh my God, this person loves me. They think I'm awesome. They want me to play in their event. They think that me being there would add value to it. And like, that will probably make them feel like they're a god and then join your event. Now, I'm not saying everybody. Maybe some people look at you and go, no, that's a waste of my time, blah, 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 whatever. I don't know how top players think. If somebody invited me to play in their tournament, I'd probably play in it 9 times out of 10. If people invite me to a pickup, I'm going to play in it 9 times out of 10. I like being included, basically. If somebody reaches out to me, I'm always down to do stuff. And a lot of people are too. People just like to be thought of and included. So it's not hard to pull a top-level player into your event if you just try reaching out. So, I don't even remember what the original topic was. I just started going, yeah, it's like a party people want invites. Exactly. Like, it's human nature to want to be included and to want to be thought about in like, you know, it's nice to know that people like you and people want you there. That's kind of the main thing. So you can take advantage of that by just inviting people to your tournaments. Like, you know, if I got a DM from somebody, my hair is a mess now. I've messed it up. It doesn't matter. There we go. Who cares? If I was, you know, if I got reached out to somebody, if somebody went like, hey, I'm making like a new tournament and like, you know, we have like a stream for it. And like, I want entertaining games on there. And because you main Reflux, I think it'd be funny if you were in this tournament with like a pickup with your team, because then like, that's something the commentators can talk about. That's something like the viewers will find interesting because it's unique. I'd be like, I'm down 100%. Like, you've invited me to this. I would love to do that. And it's, you can just do that to people. You can just DM people. The internet's a wonderful thing. You can just talk to strangers. All right. So I'm trying to think if I have any final topics I need to touch on. Again, I think in the 2 hours leading up to this, I was pacing around, like thinking about all the different things I wanted to touch upon. And I wrote like half of them down, like the important ones. But ultimately, I think that is kind of it. Obviously, I'm going to forever yap about this. Like, after I post this tomorrow, I'm probably going to have even more ideas about tournaments, and I'm going to keep consistently trying to talk about this stuff. But the goal here is just to get a lot of it out there. So to quickly recap again, there are too many tournaments, but that's not the problem. There are a lot of other things we need to tackle, that we need to do, that we need to figure out as a community. We need to talk about it and work together, whether it be physically working together as TOs or just talking a lot on social media, talking in Discord, sharing ideas. So I encourage all of you watching live or the VOD, just go into the world of competitive Splatoon and talk and just share ideas and enjoy this game together and try to find solutions to these problems. Again, that's the point of this whole entire podcast. And work constructively. We should stop shutting down smaller tournaments and rather build up the currently existing ones that we want to succeed. And whether that be actually working with the org and TOing or, doing production or anything, or just, reminding people to play these tournaments, asking people to play pickups with you in them. When they post that they're streaming, retweet it and share it around, like bring people into that sphere and try to encourage people to participate in the things that you enjoy, and encourage the TOs to up the ante and make better events and have cooler ideas with what they want to do. And we need to make sure our TOs are understanding what they want to do with their events and, finding what their goal is, what they think success is, and then push that further. And then, of course, the change that Sendo is making, I think, poses an interesting challenge to smaller TOs. As much as it is going to be devastating for people, I think that it's going to be better if people start not using Sendo. If we decentralize Sendo.inc, and it just becomes one of the options. It's the premier option. It's where all the good stuff is going to go, but that doesn't mean that you can't run a tournament. You can still run it on the Splatoon app, in Google Sheets and Discord, like Area Cup, on Battlefield and Challenge or Start.gg. There's other places to do it. If you want your event to happen, it will work. You can make it happen. You just need to be determined, and you need to have a plan. And of course, TOs, please update your information. Reach out to smaller TOs. Try to pull them in. We need to be more collaborative at the end of the day. So that's kind of my main takeaway. That's the cliff notes. Again, there's a lot more production people too. Yes, we need more people in every role. I'm going to talk, I feel like another day I'm going to have a topic on the idea of not playing the game exclusively. I think that the community needs more support people, more TOs, more production, more analysts, more coaches, more artists to work with teams, team managers. And there's so many roles in this community that aren't playing the game that people can do. Yes, perfect segue. Easy numbers. The VOD is going to be on my YouTube channel. So every episode that I make is going to go straight onto my YouTube, just completely uncut, just as it is. Maybe if I'm feeling frisky, I'll make some clips and whatever of certain talking points. But yeah, I'm going to upload this probably tonight to make sure it is there. So that being said, I'm going to stop talking in circles because I will just keep talking about the same topics over and over and over and over again. And realistically, I think the bulk of what is important about what I'm going to say has been said in the past hour or so. So I am going to cut off here. Miss last hour wondering. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the VODs will be on YouTube. That being said, thank you all for watching. Again, this is just a podcast idea I've had in the back of my head for a while, and I decided to capitalize on Sendo talking about the new upcoming changes in July to use that as a reason to make the first episode. So I have a lot more talking points to come. Again, the next episode will likely be on why Splatoon streams get low viewership, because that is the most passionate topic I can possibly think of. I am very excited to talk about that one. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. Again, go online, start talking about these things. Go on the Comp Splatoon hashtag. Even use hashtag critical inking when talking about some of these topics so that other people who watch the show can come watch, including me, and listen to, and collaborate a bit more. And again, thanks for gassing up the first episode. I appreciate it. Make sure if you're watching this in the future, share this VOD with people. Go if you have other people who might be interested in this topic who talk about tournaments. Share them this and see like, hey, here's some other perspectives, and start a discussion about it. All that other crazy cool stuff. Thank you for everyone who's followed during the stream. Again, I appreciate it. Thanks everyone who's watching. Thank you if you're watching the VOD and you watched all the way for the last hour and 15 minutes of this. You're crazy. I love you. But that being said, that is all from me for tonight. I'm hoping to make more episodes of this very, very soon. You have been watching Critical Inking with Hammy. And I will see you guys next time.